Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets and Titles special bonus episode. This is our second installment of the Frankenstank rules meeting. We haven't hit a whole lot of the actual rules so far because we're still rolling through several of the new monster cards. I got a little carried away with the new monster cards list. You can tell by the grin on my man Rich's face. He just got hit with this list. So immediate reactions, Rich. As I wait till you to take a drink before I
Yeah.
throw it.
Well, so let's first off by saying you're going to have to word this to me like in children's terms.
No problem. No problem. If I can come up with them, then anybody can understand them. But you guys know it's a little bit of a difference with my background here. I got a little vacation getaway for the weekend with the wife, so we're gonna purposefully make this one no more than an hour. We're gonna cut this one as short as possible, and so I can get back to our vacation shenanigans, as you might say. I think that's what the kids are calling
Ooh, shenanigans.
But how are you doing, buddy?
I'm good, man. Just anytime I could get it to jump on and chat with you, man, it's the best, man. You guys are my second family, you know that.
Yeah, I miss you, man. I miss you. We haven't seen you in a little while. We after we stop the Sunday morning start sit shows, the next big thing to look forward to, I guess, are the fun day drafts. So we're gonna be starting those back up here pretty soon. In years past, like I started it like the very first week after we stopped the title time, but so it would have been this weekend. But with this little getaway here, I didn't want to pile on too much here. So I might try it next week. We might do the first fun day draft show next Saturday of the new season. I am, of course, your reigning champion, by the way, just so everybody's aware. But let's see. All right, Frankenstank. We've got a ton of new monster cards. For those of you, quick refresher, those of you that didn't already know, we are going to move the league into 3 monster cards each for each team owner starting next season. So so the way it's going to work, I think in the first 4 rounds, you have to draft one. You have to draft one in the last round. And then in round 13, we're doing a random wheel spin. And you're going to be randomly selected a monster card for you for the season. So you're going to have 3 monster cards. That's why I went out of my way to create a ton of new ones. I know Coach isn't around anymore, but I still got some help from him and Emmett, because they each still had a few on the docket from last year that we never actually used. I was able to create those into monster cards. And Lori, my wife, the executive producer, Lori, has come up with some ideas for some in the past. Rich, you sent me one that I put. I don't think I put it on the list yet because I have to figure out a way to tie that into your monster team name. So do you happen to remember what you mentioned?
Yeah. So in gist and stuff like that is you get to pick a player from your bench, and whatever that player scores, it gets deducted from your opponent's starting lineup. So what's funny about it is I was listening. I can't remember what I was watching or anything like that, and someone was talking about that, and they were saying, "Yeah, one time I'm going to create a league where you can use your whole bench against your starting opponent and stuff. Figure out a way how you can use your starters and your bench in the same week." And I was like, dude, that's not a bad idea. And I was like, that'd be a perfect fit for us, for our league. Maybe starting out small with, like I said, that one player and stuff like that you pick the player throughout the whole season that you could use, and whatever they score on the bench and stuff like that. So do you pick a starter that scores a lot of points and sticks them on the bench permanently to always use that against your opponent that week,
Right. Oh, so it's a year long.
Yeah, but you can't change. You can't change the player or anything like that. So you take a shot. You take a shot. If they have a bad game, then obviously it can't work in your advantage, and you just can't. And then on top of that too, if they get injured, that player's out.
It's essentially a whole nother roster spot, though, which is great. Like it's okay. So your team name is, or at least has been since day one, and I assume you're going to stick with it, is El Cucuy, right? So, and if I remember right, you described that to me as he's kind of like the Mexican boogeyman, right?
Yep.
So we need to find a way to tie his story into that theme of that card. So you do that for me, and I'll make sure that I mark that up because I like the idea of that monster card. As far as other rules for the Frank guys, those are going to be in more detailed rules meeting. I'm going to try to I'm going to have a bigger panel for the actual rules meeting. I'll plan it further ahead instead of just, trying to throw one together like I did for this one. But since this one, these ideas are pretty much already laid out for these monster cards. What I need the other guys like Rich to come on for is to listen to these monster cards, give me your feedback, give me your opinion. And if you're watching, I see Joe in there. Yeah, of course we like Rich's ideas. You also like his draft strategies, so make sure you pay attention, especially in redraft. The man knows how to draft a team. But if you're watching this and you want to comment in the comments to react to these new monster cards as well, let us know what you think. See if there's anything we need to tweak, because some of them may be too powerful, some of them maybe not powerful enough.
Hey, can I stop by saying one thing about this league?
Yes, sir.
The evolution of this league from when you and Coach started this and everything and stuff like that. I remember the first season and stuff like that. And remember, this was a complicated league from the start, okay? Yeah. When we first started out and stuff like that, where what would you say percentage-wise teams were quitting mid-season, or it just the percentage was a lot higher than we're at now, 5 seasons later.
So season 1, we didn't have anybody quit, but it was only one division, 14 teams, and it was all mostly people on the team. So that one was pretty easy. The people that weren't on the team that were in the league were close friends or family members of ours. So like that one was easy. Year 2, I would say we probably had close to about 30 or 40% quit. Year 3 and 4, we're both hovering right around that 50%. But this past year, we kept it at under 15% that I had to replace. So
that's the reason why I'm
definitely dialing back. Yeah.
Well, this is the reason why I'm saying this and stuff like that, because here's the evolution of this league and stuff like that. Okay. Yes. A lot of people are quitting when they started out 0-2. But what did we do? I say we and stuff like that. But what you guys do? You guys created for the 0-2 people to still be involved. And I guarantee you, people that made the playoffs, how many of them started 0-2? We evolved it to make it more competitive, even from starting out losing or planning on losing and stuff like that, to where people understand our monster cards and stuff like that, to where it's like, I had the Ghostbuster card. I didn't even get to use it all year long.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It's a scary card, but still, it's like, well, man, I got the card, but I didn't get to use it. I didn't get a block. Yeah. Well, I did. I kept people from not using their card on me and stuff like that.
Exactly.
But now we've got to the evolution where people are understanding these cards and stuff like that. To now where, man, we're making up new cards to make it even more complicated and stuff like that, to make it more challenging. And that just goes to the credit of what you guys have done with this league. Just keep on evolving every year.
I appreciate that. And yeah, we'd actually, speaking of that, we had 25% of the teams in the league, or 20% of the teams in the league started off 0-2, and they all got a hero card. 25% of the teams in the league made the playoffs, or 25% of the teams that made the playoffs had a monster card, which tells me that the monster card is doing its job. Like the same percentage of people that started off 0-2, of those 0-2 teams, that same percentage of people and a little bit more made the playoffs. So the hero card does work. But then on top of that, just as you said, we set it up so that the final week of the regular season, the team with the most points for that week automatically makes the playoffs within their division. We had a couple of teams that only won a few games that made the playoffs, and they were able to make a little noise in the playoffs because they planned their team set up for that week, just so that way it keeps them from being inactive. And then also, of course, our consolation tournaments, where we have the teams that start off with two or three wins or less are all in the same tournament to try to win a free deck of our monster cards, because we do turn these into trading cards for you kids at home that like those trading cards. And real quick, congratulations to Falcor. And Price's Thrillers, because they are in the stinkers bracket that we were just talking about in the championship. That's right. We do have some championship games going in week 18 of the NFL season. The Thing, Elliot Probst, he was our returning champion of the actual Frank last year, but he didn't do so hot this year. He was in the stinkers bracket, or the sinkers bracket this year, not the stinkers, but the sinkers. We do have several consolation brackets, but he won that tournament, so he's still a champion, but now he's king of all turds. Appreciate that. And then our man Steve Orlando, that's Turd Ferguson on the Discord. Again, reach out to us at JustinFF_ at Toilets to Titles, or over on Blue Sky at Toilets to Titles, and I can get you into our Discord where we talk about all this Frank stuff. We announce all this sort of stuff, and we just talk football in general. But Turd Ferguson over there, Steve, he is the king of the Patreons because he is a Patreon member, and he won our Patreon-only consolation tournament. And then now we're down to my son Peyton and our boy Badulak. He's Predator. My son Peyton is the Hounds of Bakersville. They're the two that are in the finals. And guys, I know some of you might be thinking it, but honestly, I have done very little to help Peyton outside of the normal start-sit questions that many of you guys ask me on a regular basis anyway, or even a weekly basis. I would say there are several people in this league that ask me more questions about who to start and sit than Peyton has. So, I mean, this man has he's done it on his own. He's definitely earned whatever he might win with this, but I do wish that I would have chosen to play him in the Final Four instead of Predator. My thought process there was trying to look at matchups and thinking I got to play Predator eventually. And so in that, not the Final Four, but the Final 8, I chose Predator. Had I chose either of the other two, one of them being Peyton, I would have made it into the Final Four, and then you never know from there. But unfortunately, 2 years in a row, out with in the Erie 8, as I like to call it. But yeah, so pretty wild stuff. Yeah, and there'll be more changes to come. But for now, we got to get into these monster cards. I have several different new monster cards I've created, and the next one up that we're going to discuss is the Children of the Corn. Rich, you live in Oklahoma. There's a few cornfields out there, right?
No, that's Indiana, where you're from.
Well, I know Indiana.
We're all about cotton and wheat, baby.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I knew you guys had wheat, and I knew that it was flat fields. I thought maybe you guys had corn too. Like what's
very rare, maybe like 2%.
So it's just probably a little too hot down there in Oklahoma.
Hey, I don't know about that and stuff like that. I mean, we might have more cornfields in the back of someone's yards than we actually have fields.
All right. Well, being from Indiana, we are known for having corn, obviously. So if I'm going to be the mastermind of Frank, then I need to have Children of the Corn as a representative. Did you at least see the movie?
Man, that was a long time ago. I'm sure I have, but man, it's been a long, long time, man.
Well, the Children of the Corn were all about sacrificing people. So if you play this card, you're forcing your opponent to sacrifice the use of one of their players. The sacrificed player must be a regular starter. This means somebody that has started for at least their last 3 games for their actual NFL team and for that team's fantasy team. So like, let's say it's Josh Allen. Let's say you have Josh Allen and I'm facing you, Rich. Mm-hmm. But Josh Allen missed week 2 because he had a little tweaked ankle, so he didn't play week 2, but he did play week 1 and 3. Well, I can't play this card on him because he wasn't a starter in your starting lineup for at least 3 weeks. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Okay. So he's got to be a starter on his NFL team and a starter on your team. So Bijan Robinson wouldn't count. He's a backup. Or wait, not Bijan Robinson. I'm talking about his backup, Tyler Algier. You couldn't play this on him because he's not a starter on his actual team. Anyhow, you play this card, and I might change that to just the fantasy team so that it's a little easier because sometimes you don't know exactly who the starter is. But anyway, that's why we talk these out. Yep. But this is excluding their bye weeks. So this means that you have to I was wrong. Excluding their bye weeks or games where they were considered out due to injury. So if Josh Allen was out week 2 and he had a bye week in week 5, but he started for you in weeks 1, 3, and 4, then I can play this card on Josh Allen for week 6. But essentially this means that you're going to have to wait until at least week 4 to play this card because your opponent needs to have at least 3 starting have them in their starting lineup at least 3 weeks in a row. But your opponent gets to choose the player from the qualifying candidates that you get to use this card up to 3. Oh, wait, hold on. Let's see. You're sacrificing to use one of their players. The sacrifice players must be regular and not listen. Okay, your opponent gets to choose the player from the qualifying candidates. Oh, okay. So I guess I'm not playing it on a set player, but I'm choosing to use this card, and I'm saying, hey, Rich, I'm playing Children of the Corn on you. Here's the list of players that qualify. Here's the list of players that have started in your starting lineup over the last 3 weeks. You get to choose which one you're benching this week.
So I'm benching him for you to use him.
No, it's sacrifice. You're sacrificing the player altogether. You don't get to use that player. You get to choose the player.
But you're giving me 3 to choose from.
No, not even necessarily 3. It's whoever is qualifying in that situation.
From my starting lineup, though.
Yes, it's from your starting lineup. Okay. Yeah. So it's from your starting lineup. So let's say I play this card on you, and you have 4 players that have been in your starting lineup for their last 3 games that they've played. You get to choose between those 4 which one you're sacrificing.
Okay.
So it's up to you. You are the children at that point. I'm playing the Children of the Corn card because you have to make the sacrifice. You have to choose who you're sacrificing from your team to throw onto your bench.
But I can't only put someone else in that bench spot, in that starting lineup, but I just can't play.
Well, maybe we need to discuss that.
Well, that's the reason why we're talking this.
Yeah, I don't know. What do you think?
So basically, I am sacrificing points from a player if we go that route, and I can't put someone in. So instead of playing with 9 players, I'm playing with 8 players that week.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense because that makes the card powerful then.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Making the adjustments as we go.
Because in that case and stuff like that, using that card on me and stuff like that, okay, so you don't get to choose the 3 players, so I could put any. So obviously, I'm going to pick the player that has a lower scoring average. So, is that really a good card to play?
Right. No, I like. Wait, hold on. We got Bobby Trauma in here. Good to see you, buddy. No, I like that. I like the idea. I like the thought process there. Here was my thinking when I created the card, though. It was more for like you get towards the middle or the end of the season, right? And you're building a stacked team. But over the last 2 weeks, you have stolen Nico Collins and you've stolen Josh Allen. They're already going to be really good players on your team. But now I can't choose those to sacrifice because you have only had them for 2 weeks. But you have 4 other guys that were huge stack team players because that's what's helped build it up. So you might see my card coming, and that might decide who you give up in a forced trade in the vampire trade too. You see what I'm saying?
I do. But just thinking strategy-wise and stuff like that, to me, it doesn't really matter who like if you were to play that card and everything, it doesn't matter. Like even from whoever I got, I'm still going to end up picking the player that scored the less or stuff like that. Or maybe like what you're saying, I know that you're going to be this playing this card if it came up to me and stuff like that. Am I thinking ahead and benching some players? I see like it's just the way you look at it and stuff like that, you know?
Right. Right, that's a part of it too. Like if you have already started Josh Allen all season and you see that you're playing me in week 10, maybe you bench him in week 9, 8, or 7 on purpose to avoid the card, which is also a part of it because maybe I want you to bench him a little early and hope that you lose sooner so that you're not playing your full because then maybe you have a difference. Maybe Nico gets stolen from you because you benched Josh Allen to avoid my card.
True.
That's all part of why I like
to look at it.
But I like it. I like what you mentioned about they don't get any points at all. That makes the card powerful enough to use it.
Yeah, because basically what you're using for is to knock them one player down out of their starting lineup.
Right. Because my initial thought was they had to bench them, but that really, especially with the purpose of the card to go up against a more powerful team, then they already have a really good backup, most likely. So yeah, you're right. I like that. Definitely adding in that they get 0 for that position. And then I had down that you get to use this card up to 3 times. There are different cards that can be used at different points. Some cards are season long. Some cards are only for a week. It depends on how powerful they are. So based off of what you've read about this card, do you think it's powerful enough to allow it to be used 3 times, or do you think 3 times makes it too powerful?
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, to me, I don't view this card as a powerful card and stuff like that. Because sit here
and
and think
neither
about,
was I. That's why I
sit here and think about it this way and stuff like that. If you've played Frank and stuff like that, one player ain't gonna kill your team.
Right.
I mean, you could have a team that goes for 300 points, and one of those players, and it could be a starter, a star, only scores 10 points that week. And stuff like that. And in fantasy terms, for Frank, a 10-point is like a 1-point game.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Okay. Well, I agree. That's why
I think 3 times is good.
Okay, cool.
Because think of it this way. You can't even use it until week 4.
Oh, that's true too. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yep. I like it. We will stick with 3 times then. The next card, the fisherman from I Know What You Did Last Summer. The fisherman's name was Ben Willis.
Great movie.
Okay. What's that?
That was a great movie.
Yeah. So so think about the plot of the movie, because I try to tie these all into the storylines. But this card guarantees you the highest scoring week from any player on your roster from the previous season. Okay. So the purpose of this card here, this might help dictate who you're drafting as far as a player goes, to help you with week 1, because you might have a player. Let's think of a player that had one really cool week, one awesome week out of nowhere, and then has been a relative nobody otherwise on the season. Maybe you can't think of one right now, but you'll know whenever you go to draft, because you can go back and look at last year's stats and see that player that had a crazy awesome good week last year. You can use this card. When you play this card, you convert a player from your current lineup to a player at the same position from the previous season. That player scores and that player scores his highest total from the previous year's season. Hold on, let me think about this.
Yeah, because I was waiting for you to say that.
Okay, I think I got things mixed up here. When you play this card, you convert a player from your current lineup to a player at the same position from the previous season, and that player scores his highest total for the. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, okay. Well, I want to change that. I don't want to make it change into a different player. I want it to be that player. So let's say Robert Woods, for instance. I don't know that he did, but let's say Robert Woods had.
No, I'll give you a perfect one. DeMarcus Robinson for the Rams.
Okay, DeMarcus Robinson. Do you happen to know off the top of your head how many points he scored in 1 week last year, or this season?
Well, this season he had one game where he had 3 touchdowns and stuff like that.
That's probably like a 70-point game in Frank.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's say that DeMarcus Robinson, 70 points. So now if you know you have this card because you drafted it in the Frank draft, now you're going to go draft DeMarcus Robinson in one of the later rounds, because you know you're going to use his points in week 1, because you get to use DeMarcus Robinson's points from last season. For that 1 week, but only for that 1 week that he scored crazy big points. And you're going to go use that in week 1 to try to go win week 1 and move forward, if that makes sense. So I definitely
have to be some like, say for example on this card right here, you're going to have to really reword the way this is set.
Yeah.
Now I get it. I totally get it and stuff like that based off the movie and everything and stuff like that. So it's going to have to be the player, because initially you said you can almost like morph into a player or something like that, but it has to be that player. Like, say, for example, DeMarcus Robinson and stuff like that. So I'll give you a prime example. DeMarcus Robinson this season, that and this is not the best example, but he averaged probably about 12 points, fantasy points per game. But that 1 week he scored 47.6. Okay, so that might not be the best example, but it is a prime example of like,
Right.
say, for example, you do draft somebody, you draft him like in the very last round and stuff
Right.
like that, and say all of a sudden, week 3, your team has already been stolen and been used. Maybe not so much week 1. It's strategizing the right week and everything. Like, say you're going through a bad streak and stuff like that, and you have that one player is like, oh, you know what? I need these points this week, guaranteed points. That's where you would use that card, for example.
Right. And then another angle of this card that I was thinking at the time was, let's say Lamar Jackson goes down in week 3 and he's out for the season and somebody drops him. Well, now you have this card on your roster. You can go pick him up in week 6 when you're going up against a tough opponent and start him and use your fisherman card and say, I want Lamar Jackson's most points that he scored in any one game this past season in Frankenstank, which would have been for Lamar Jackson. His highest was 100 points, 100.86 in week 15 against the Giants. So now you get 100 points right off the bat because you went and picked up a guy that's on IR, put him in your starting lineup, and you get his highest 1 week total from last year.
All right. So here, caveat to this, okay? I'm the opponent that's playing against you. I'm playing you when you use this card. When are you announcing this? Because if you tell me you're doing this the week you're playing me, I'm automatically benching players.
Oh, yeah. So typically these cards have to, if it doesn't specifically say, then they have to be announced by noon Thursday before the Thursday night, 6 p.m. Thursday before the Thursday night football games start.
But still, if you announce that to me that you're playing at Lamar Jackson for a 100-point game, I still got Sunday. I'm benching players.
Right.
So is this a secret card or?
Oh, that's another thing I talked about in the last meeting. I'm trying to avoid the secretive cards as much as possible.
Okay,
I'm even changing the ones that were already secretive because mostly from a logistics standpoint, it's very difficult for the commissioners to try to keep up with all that.
I agree.
But then also adding in all the extra monster cards now as well. I think there is still one that we have to keep secretive because that's basically the entire story. Storyline of the card. I think that's the Rumpelstiltskin card. Will be the only one that we still keep secretive. But other than that, we're getting.
So with that being said, is it one of those cards you announce after the games have been played and you know you're down?
No, I think it needs to be announced ahead of time because and look at so let's say you do that and you play the card against me and I know you're going to get 100 points. Maybe I say, okay, I know he's going to win. I'm going to go bench all my good players. But I tried doing that on purpose. I lost on purpose the first 2 weeks to get a hero because I wanted to see what it was like. Yeah. And I still lost good players because I couldn't hide them all. I didn't have enough room on my bench to hide them all. But even if I didn't, I think that plays into Frank. You know what I mean? Like, even if I was able to hide all my good players, you still get the easy automatic win because you use that card. You just may not get to steal a good player.
True.
So then maybe you don't use your card that week. Maybe you look at that and you think, well, shoot, if he hides all his best players, am I actually going to be able to steal anybody? Is it worth using my card this week? So are you saying maybe this one should be played afterward? Oh, you know what? I know what you did last summer is a reflection of the past. So if we play it after the game's played, then that would be more of a reflection on the storyline of the movie too.
That's the reason. I wasn't kind of going that same direction, what you're thinking, but it makes sense and stuff like that. I think it's more of a dangerous card that way compared to knowing. And obviously, to me, I feel like this shouldn't be an all year card. If that was the case,
okay.
Now you get what I'm saying.
Yeah. So
how many times would you be able to use it?
Right. What do you think? Because I wasn't thinking afterwards, so now I'm kind of thrown for a loop here. But I like it. I like the angle of going after.
I think it's a better card if you're able to use it afterwards, or maybe not even so afterwards. Maybe we set a deadline that if you are going to use the card, you have to use it before the 3:00 game, the second half of the games on Sunday.
Oh man. See,
You get what I'm saying?
all of our other cards though are either Thursday before Thursday night football or Tuesday, like at noon, just for logistics reasons.
But think how interesting that would make this card.
Yeah, but I like to look at things from a commissioner standpoint too. Like adding in that extra deadline, that's just another deadline to consider. You know what I mean?
Gotcha. No, I hear you. I'm just
the reason I'm getting rid of
That's the reason why we're having this show.
Yeah. It definitely would shake things up. Let me make a note of that. Maybe a mid-week announcement, and then I'll think about that one a little bit more. So I've got that.
Maybe not so much half like that, but like say after the Thursday night game, you have up till the Sunday start games to use it, because then you got that set Thursday's game where you could think about it, you know.
So then you still might at least get your opponent's Travis Kelce that played Thursday night.
Exactly. Just throwing out there, spitballing.
Okay. I'm writing down the ideas to consider. Okay. Like it. I like it. All right. Then I wanted to get Godzilla and King Kong involved. We've had Godzilla and King Kong team names since season 2. And they are two of the more premier monsters after your absolute classics like Frankenstein and Dracula and that sort of thing. Yeah. Later on came Godzilla and King Kong, and these were like your alpha monsters that took the world by storm and changed the face of a lot of different types of scary movies. So they absolutely had to be a part of the Frank. So I tried to think of the personality traits of these two monsters. Sorry, hold on one second. Now, as far as Godzilla goes, I got to admit, I nerded out a little bit on this one. The history guy in me came out. But Godzilla, the movie himself, the character himself, was symbolic of the United States after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The U.S. became a monster that was awoken from their slumber, as Godzilla was awoken from underwater in an underwater nuclear test, and he rose to demolish Japan. The owner of this card can raise a player from IR that is not currently being rostered on another team and put them in their roster. And then they must drop a player, obviously, to make the roster space for this IR player. But this player will then earn their per game average before they were placed on IR for your roster. So this is a monster that's come up out of nowhere. This guy is on IR. He's underwater. You're pulling him up. He's now on your roster. He's going to score the per game average before he was placed on IR, or at the time that he was placed on IR. You will continue to earn those points until your opponent decides to steal the player. So let's say, like this year, Rashee Rice was tearing it up, and you drop him because he got hurt. I go pick him up. I can start Rashee Rice, get that average for him until I go and play against you. And you're like, I'm tired of you getting those bonus points. I'm going to steal Rashee Rice. Now, if you steal him, you don't get the points for him anymore, but you at least have effectively stopped my monster card. So that's one way that you can lose the points. The card power, like I said, the card power doesn't transfer. B, the IR designation is taken away from the player. So, like, let's say miraculous healing, or it wasn't a season-long thing. Rashee Rice comes back. He's no longer on IR. I now lose the monster card and the power, and I would lose Rashee Rice. Or I'd still get to keep Rashee Rice because I picked him up off of IR. He's on my roster. I just don't get the power anymore. And then, or C, you face the opponent, or you face an opponent that has the Ghostbuster card, or in this case, similar cards, because I do have other defensive cards now, to stop your card, and you still decide to go ahead and start that player. So, like, if you start that player, they use their Ghostbuster card. You said you had Ghostbuster this year. Maybe you use your Ghostbuster card against me. I can choose to bench them and then I would still get to keep my monster card and my power with him. I just wouldn't get the points for that week. But if I happen to miss that you announced that you're using the Ghostbuster card and he's still in my starting lineup, then I would lose the card power as well. But this card must be played by noon Thursday of the first week that you claim the player, and you can choose to bench the player or start them throughout the rest of the year on your roster, however you choose to. What do you think of that one? Kind of long, kind of confusing, but what do you think?
Okay, so first of all, obviously we don't have IR roster spots in Frankenstank, so this is based off of IR on the actual football teams and stuff like that. So, so they're still on IR, but you get to utilize them in your starting lineup. So whatever their weekly average was.
Correct.
It's almost kind of like the hero card, basically. Yeah. So if you're looking at it that way, it's basically the hero card that you can use for those players that are having a huge season, like what you were saying, and are done and stuff like that, or however long they're on IR. So I like it because it's the fact for the people that don't start out 0-2. That's a way you could kind of use that, but you're also playing a risk. I mean, it happens every season. There's injuries that happens and stuff like that. You're just going to be looking for someone player. And is it worth it and stuff like that? Okay, that's going to have to be a high average to use that and everything and stuff like that. So multiple things you got to think about when you're doing this card.
Right. Now, see, like when in my Rashee Rice example, he scored 26.9, 25.85, and then 49.35. But technically, that fourth game, he still played. He got 0 because he got hurt early in the game.
So his average down.
Yeah, that hurt his average, but you still have to count that game he was hurt in. So his total average would have been pretty much 25.5 points. So you'd be getting 25.5 points. Yeah, exactly. I mean,
that's what I
Yeah, and then there's going to be some that average more than that. Like there's probably a quarterback that had a great game at some point. I am thinking maybe I should add in that the player needs to have played at least 3 games, because I don't want a crazy like a DeMarcus Robinson to score 100 points in week 1 and get hurt at the end of week 1. He's done for the year.
You know what I mean? You better word that. You better word that, because now that you put that in my head.
Okay.
I'm waiting for that one player that has that game.
Played at least 3 games.
I would say 3 games.
Yeah. So what that means then is you can't play this until at least week 4, which is also pretty good because, I do try to avoid too many powers being able to be used in those first couple weeks, because then you have too many teams that are out of it early. So,
yeah, I think it's perfect and stuff like that, because on top of that and stuff like that is this might be a stronger card going. Can you use it in the playoffs?
No cards are ever going to be able to be used in the playoffs. As of right now, I'm still holding firm to that.
Okay, no, okay. I just wanted to throw that out there. So, yeah, I mean, for a good thing, though, it's before a strong push at the end of the season and stuff like that. Wait until, if you need that and stuff. And really, if you even depend on, you go on a losing streak, say, okay, this is the time for me to use that card now.
Yeah. Yeah, like let's say something crazy happened to Saquon when he's been having this crazy good Frankenstank year. Let's say he went down in week 12. Now you use it and you're running the playoffs with it. Yeah, that's true.
What if so here too and stuff like that. So your league mates and stuff like that has to be paying attention, because if something like that happens, okay, I'm going straight to the waiver to pick him up to avoid that guy using that guy for that card. So now I'm wasting a bench spot to prevent him from picking up that player to use him.
Yeah. Yeah, or I'm second in the division and you're first in the division with that card, and my own player gets hurt and on IR. Now maybe I'm not dropping him.
True.
Yeah.
Good strategy on that one.
All right, so King Kong is next. So King Kong, I was thinking, this dude, he's a gorilla. He's a beast, right? So when I'm thinking of a beast in a huge gorilla type of player that I could use to help in a fantasy football format.
Justin, you seriously going to name this after George?
That's right. This is the George Reed King Kong gorilla card, because George is effectively a large gorilla of a man. But if you play this card, then you are adding a gorilla of a fullback to help block for your running game. So if you play this card, you get to multiply your running back scores by 2. This is a 1-week card at a time, but and it must be played by kickoff of Thursday Night Football, but you get to play it twice throughout the year. So let's say you're going to play this card, so maybe you start 4 running backs that week so that you can double the points of all 4 of them. Because maybe your wide receivers are weak that week, and or maybe you don't have the best depth at running back, but because of bye weeks, you want to try to start them and bump them up and get double out of all of them. Or maybe it's because you have Saquon and Derrick Henry, and you just want to kick the next guy's ass, and you just want to use it to double both of those guys' points.
All right, so I missed the plural on running backs, so now that makes sense. And stuff. So you got to use it for your whole starting line. And you can start up to 4 running backs.
Yes, you can.
And you said you can use it twice.
Technically 5 if you want to use your super flex for it. And if you're doubling it, then maybe you do.
True. I like it. That's a powerful card though. So I can understand you got to limit what you use this card for or how many times.
Right.
That's huge.
Yeah, I like that one.
To me, I feel like that's huge.
But like I said, when it comes to Godzilla and King Kong, I wanted them to be big because they're massive monsters. So the next one is the second female card that I created. I created Medusa. We talked about that on the last show, but I wanted to go out of my way to create some female monster cards because there are some pretty badass females in the monster realm. The Bride of Frankenstein. Why not? Frankenstein is the namesake of the Frankenstank League.
Yep.
We got to get his wife involved. I feel personally responsible that it's taken this long for us to get her actively involved. But the Bride of Frankenstein was created to be a companion for Frankenstein's monster. So with this card, you play it before the Thursday Night Football game, 6 p.m. Eastern, and you will announce a player from your roster that you will be adding a companion to. The companion must be a player from the same team as the announced player, but it can't be a player that's already rostered on your team or your opponent's. After the week is over, your player that you announced will be added the points of the companion player to their total for the week. So here's an example. If you, Rich, roster James Cook, and you and your opponent, neither one have Josh Allen, then you can announce that for this week, Josh Allen will be James Cook's companion. So the points that Allen scores that week will be added to Cook's total scores for at the end of the week. This is a one-time use only card. What do you think? A companion card.
I like it and stuff like that, but I think it needs to be used more than once. Because to me, I looked at the same thing like King Kong, the King Kong card and stuff like that.
Okay. I didn't feel that way until after I read it. And then I was kind of thinking the same thing because what happens if we, like by that example, the Bills happen to have a bad game? It's like you just wasted that monster card because it effectively, like you're counting on Cook to have a good game, but then you're also counting on Allen to have a good game. If they have a bad game, you've used that card for nothing. So you should maybe deserve a second shot at it. So
okay.
I like that.
Spitballing here. What if we set for this card like a set point limit? Like say, for example, if they score less than say 30 points between the combined, you get to use them again. Even though they win, though you win getting that card, if they score less than 30 points and you win, you still get to use that card again.
Well, maybe win or lose, really.
Well, yeah, win or lose, but I'm saying even if you win, that shouldn't count against you.
If your companion or your companion and your player combined.
Combined.
Okay.
That goes to that thing of having a bad week.
Combined for less.
And it doesn't have to be 30. Let's say.
No, I like 30 because that's basically kind of like a hero, a higher end hero. So I like that one. So if your companion and player combined for less than 30, then you earn another use of the card.
Yeah.
So but we're gonna have it. We're gonna. So then does that mean that we don't need to have it a second use? It's a one-time use.
I don't think it should be a one-time use. Say, for example, you go 3 weeks and you win. That player scores less than 30 and stuff like that. You get to keep on using it.
No. That's not what I mean. What I mean is we make it a one-time use, but you only get the second use if they score less than 30. You can use it 17 times if they keep getting it less than 30.
Correct.
But once they hit that more than 30-point total,
you lose the card.
You lose the card. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I like that.
That's a gamble you're taking and stuff like that. Because I would say it's probably like an 85% chance you're going to go over that 30 points and stuff like that. But in case it doesn't, you get the option of using it again to take that as an advantage.
I like it. All right. Yeah, you have a lot more feedback than some of the other guys did. I like this. You need to bring your ideas to the table more often. Vecna. We've got Vecna. His name, his actual fictional character name in the Stranger Things is Henry Creel. So this is the Henry Creel Vecna card. Vecna thrives in the upside down. This isn't a card that you want if you don't like math, just so you know. Just going to say it. I'm just going to throw that out there. But if you're a math guy, a math person, you might like this card. But if you play this card, you get to turn your opponent's points for a player upside down. By this, what I mean is you can choose any player on your opponent's roster to flip the points in the ones column and the tens column of their score. Not the decimals. We're not counting decimals. But here's an example. If a player scores 70.95 points against you, then you can use Vecna to flip the 7 and the 0 because the 7 is in the tens column, the 0 is in the ones column. So then that player now effectively is making the upside down, which is 07.95. So just under 8 points instead of just under 71 points. Scored against you. The catch here, though, is that you must designate the week that you're playing the card ahead of the Thursday night football game, but you have to wait until after the Monday night football game and before noon on Tuesday to actually choose the designated player. But you must choose a player, because if not, then you get hit with the illegal lineup penalty. So, and the reason I threw that in there is because I want it to be a chance card. If you throw that out there and I say, Rich, I'm going to use my upside down against you, I'm going to use Vecna against you, and then it comes back and there were no big, huge points like that. Because like in that example, 70.95. What if it were 78.95? Well, if I switch it around, you're now getting 87 points instead of, so there is a chance that this could bite you. Chances are, though, with 9 starting spots, roster spots, there's going to be at least one that's helpful to you, but it may not necessarily be helpful enough to win your match either. So you are taking a chance with it. Most likely it's going to help you. Pretty likely it's even going to help you win a match, but you're still taking a chance. So what do you think about that one?
Yeah, a lot of math. I mean, you're basically hoping that second digit is going to be higher than a 5. It's going to be a 6 or higher every year. That's what you're banking for and everything, stuff like that. I mean, and it happens every week. So, to me, I feel like it ain't going to be something where one of your players is going to. I mean, even if they score 7 points, okay. What if they score 7 points? How would you utilize that?
So that would be 0-7.
So then you could switch it 7-0.
Yeah, it would be 70. And you're not going to switch it to give your opponent 70 points.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah, I get what you're saying and stuff like that. Okay, I see what you're saying now.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting card. I mean, it goes to the upside down. I get that aspect of it.
I feel like in most weeks, this is going to be a guaranteed win.
Yeah,
but not always. You're still taking that chance. So you're still watching these scores all weekend long and hoping that it pans out. So you might get through the 1 o'clock games and it didn't work out. And then you're watching the 4 o'clock games and you're stressing, right? Like,
you're going to have some bad luck for that not to happen.
Right. At least at some point.
Yeah. If that happens to you, don't go to Lotto. Don't go to the casinos because the luck's against you.
So with that in mind, how many uses is this card?
Very minimal. I mean, this is kind of like, man, see, this is the one thing, us thinking this and stuff like that. if we limit to 1 or 2 and stuff like that, how many times is someone going to actually use this card, or is this card that can be forced on you to from the wheel and everything or something like that?
Right. Yeah, you might randomly spin it, but yeah, no, I like just one time only on this one.
Okay, I'm aligned with that. It's a powerful card and stuff like that, but I'm gonna be honest. I'm not picking this card because of the fact that I can only use it one time, and
right. But also, it helps having it only one time. That prevents my my commissioners from having to do too much math. They tend to complain a little when I make them do a little bit too much math. So we got that. Chucky, my brother-in-law Sam, is Chucky's last stand in the Frankenstank, and he has been the last couple of years. So Chucky was one of my personal favorites as a child growing up. So I'm happy to get him involved here. But Chucky has an incredible regeneration power. This card gives you the ability to regenerate your player if it is stolen. So this means that if you have a player stolen, you are given a player in return, just like in our normal vampire steal. If you steal Nico Collins from me, you got to give me a player back. So maybe you give me DeMarcus Robinson in return because you started him that week just to make that forced trade.
Yep.
That player that you were given in return will now get the points of the player that was stolen from you for the next 3 weeks, excluding the playoffs.
Yeah.
So here's so should the player stolen have a bye week in that span of 3 weeks, then the player you are given will not be awarded the points of that player stolen for that 1 week, and the rule carries over an extra week. So let's say in that situation, Nico Collins, you steal him in week 10. So, and then he has a bye in week 12. So I get those points for DeMarcus Robinson. I get Nico's points in weeks 11, 13, and 14. It just spills over to the next week. Now, I must start DeMarcus Robinson in order to still be able to get the stolen player Nico Collins' points. If I don't start DeMarcus Robinson, it's just like I'm not starting Nico Collins.
Yeah.
So you must also use this card. You may also use this card up to 2 times throughout the season on 2 different players, and those 2 times can even overlap weeks as well. So this is good for if you're losing players at the beginning of the season and you're losing points, you're losing those big players right off the bat, you can still get those points and try to get some wins and try to help mitigate some of that. So this card must be played by noon Thursday in response to the previous week's player being stolen so that this card is activated from the previous week's matchups. If Ghostbuster is played against you while you are using this card, then the power is no longer active for that player or or players if you have it on more than one. You are getting the points from, and you can't use it again for the rest of the season. So in other words, if I happen to be playing Ghostbuster 2 weeks after I start this whole Nico thing, and then he plays Ghostbuster against me, it doesn't matter if DeMarcus Robinson was in my bench or on my starting lineup. If they choose to use Ghostbuster, that's going to make Ghostbuster even more powerful. If they can choose to use that power, whether I'm starting DeMarcus Robinson or not, and I lose those points for the remainder of that 3 weeks. Correct. From that point forward. So that means looking ahead, I got to look ahead to see who's playing that, who has that Ghostbuster card to determine whether or not I still want Nico's points or not. Does all that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I'm following. I'm smelling what the rock's cooking. So you can use this on 2 different players.
Up to 2 different, yeah.
Yeah, so say I lose a player first week, I could use it, and week 6 comes around, I use another player, I could use it again.
Yep.
But that's all I get.
Yeah, or you can do it week 6 when one player's stolen, and then week 7 when the next player's stolen, and get the points for both of them for 8 and 9, and then that first player would drop off, and you still have the second player in week 10.
Yeah, I like this card. And here's the reason why. To me, it ain't a huge powerful card or anything like that. But it's the fact that you get to use it on 2 different players and stuff like that, and like I said, you could overlap them and stuff like that. It's a good way to keep people when they're losing their players, to keep them advantage and stuff like that for the upcoming players. So you're not getting taken advantage of like 2-3 weeks in a row. You don't go through a bad stretch or anything like that.
Yeah, and even though you lost that player and you're not going to get those points in a few weeks, at least you have a few weeks to try to plan for it. Like, okay, I know I'm losing Nico's points in 3 weeks. Now I can try to steal another wide receiver next week when I play this other guy to help mitigate that loss. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So question, throwing this out there. I know you lost Nico Collins the week before you play me, and you got DeMarcus Robinson and stuff like that. I steal that player and stuff like that. It's just kind of eliminating that player and that card. You can't utilize it, and I can't utilize it either.
Yeah, so because the rule states that the rule states that DeMarcus Robinson has to be in the starting lineup to get the points. So if DeMarcus Robinson is then stolen, you're not getting those points. But I do need to stipulate in there that the person stealing that player doesn't
get to either.
Also doesn't get those points. Okay, I see what you're saying.
I still like the card though.
Okay, so next we have Jeepers Creepers. So the Creeper is another regenerative thing in a way, sort of. Actually, no. Oh, yes, I love this card. Rich, you're going to love this card. The Creeper only returns every 23 years. We know this from watching the Jeepers Creepers movies. But he still returns. You can't use this card the first year that you have it. Okay? But by drafting it, you get to keep 2 players from your roster at the end of the season at the rounds that they were drafted this year for the following year. This can be any player on your roster at the end of the year. If they were not drafted in your division, then you can go pick them up and have them on your roster as a free agent, and you get to keep them for the last round pick. So it's a keeper league aspect, but only for your team. So you get Jeepers Creepers in the 2025 Franks season. You have to hold on to that card all season, and it takes up a roster spot. But if you still have the Jeepers Creepers card at the end of the season, then for the next season of Frank 2026, you get to keep 2 players from your roster, which means, and you keep them at their drafted position. So like, let's say, I don't know. It's keeper league rules.
Yeah, I get it. So I mean, here's a couple things too. And so you said if you still have it on your, is there a reason why it wouldn't be on your roster?
Yeah, because sometimes people drop monster cards to allow for more roster space.
Okay.
And like in this case, since the monsters are usually dropped at the end of the season for the playoffs, in this case, you would have to use up that roster spot to keep the Jeeper Creeper card because you're using it for next year's league.
Okay, what if you are drafting a freshman player that you could draft in the first two rounds, but yet they're going into their 3rd season, so they're not considered a freshman or sophomore anymore? You still get to utilize them for that round.
You get them in the 1st round. Yep.
Nice. That's what I'm talking. That's what I'm talking.
Yeah.
Yeah, but to keep a card for a whole year, to go into the next season and stuff like that, it does adds. We're limited on roster bench spots.
Now, keep in mind, though, with the new rules, because like I said, I know you weren't here for the last meeting. So with the new rules, we are adding 2 more roster spots. We're adding 2 more rounds to the draft.
2 more bench spots.
That's because we're adding 2 more monsters. And to help prevent people from using those roster spots on the bench to hide players, you're getting 1 more starting position as well.
So you're playing the long game, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
It's essentially what that is. So, and this is a card where being a Frank guy where I'm competitive and I want to win Frank now, I'm not going to draft it. But if it happens to be my random wheel spin card, I'm probably going to be pretty happy because I'm going to hold on to it and wait until the end of the season. And then now next year, it's like having 4 monster cards. I'm going to get 2 players at a really good value because I'm going to plan for that at the end of the year before the league is locked and I can set up which 2 players I want.
So at the end of the season, you have to pick the player before.
Yeah, I would say, we need to set a deadline for it, but yes, at some point after the season's over and before the next talks of the next leagues set up.
I would say it has to be by the end of week 18, even though say you're out of it and you're still got the card, you have to have the players chosen by week 18 and stuff like that. Because here's where it adds the other element to it and stuff. We go that route. Okay, what if you pick a player and stuff like that, and is this advantage or disadvantage? What if they get hurt in the off season?
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's fair. Yep.
So
I like that.
That way, now you're playing a game and stuff like that. Now, how often is it going to happen? But it does happen.
Yeah, it's enough to make you stress about the reports when you see that mild hamstring tweak in March.
Or there's so many ways you can go and think about it. So yeah, it's
all right.
Hard. I think, like I said, it really depends on the people that are playing, that are constantly like you and me that have been here for 4 or 5 years playing it since it started.
Right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So here is the 9th card. The 9th card that we're going over tonight. The
All
Joker.
Right, real quick, before we get started.
Yeah.
I know you're on your honeymoon right now. We are an hour in.
Yep. This is the last
Lori,
card.
I'm thinking of you, Lori. I'm thinking of you.
This is the last card, I promise. So we have the Joker and Harley Quinn. The Joker and so this is a tag team card. This is 2 monsters in one. Again, it was a way for me to get another female monster in there. And I understand super villains are not necessarily monsters, but we're being
here we go.
Yeah, we're being a little bit more liberal with our term monster nowadays because, like I said, Peyton, who's in the championship, he really wanted a Dr. Heinz Doofenshmirtz, and that was from a cartoon, Phineas and Ferb, and I let that one in because he's my son. Okay, some of these are a little loose. There's even one that we're going to talk about on the next episode, the Hans Gruber from Die Hard. So, I mean, yeah, there's villains, bad guys, monsters. Like, they're still monsters. But anyway, this is a tag team monster card, the Joker and Harley Quinn. So a tag team card is it's where you get to steal as many points as you want from another team in your division that you are not playing against. It must be a team that won that week, and you can't steal enough points to cause them to lose. So in other words, you and I are playing each other, and you beat me by 30 points. Mm-hmm. But over here in this other game, we got Jason and George that played each other, and Jason beat George by 40 points. Well, I can steal 39 points from Jason so that Jason still gets the win, but I now have enough points to give me the win over you. I'm using Jason as my tag team partner.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have to pick the week? Obviously, you're going to have to play the card before the week starts. What if nobody in the league scores enough points for you to?
Okay, I guess I did not. Yeah, I didn't say that part because I didn't have it listed down here. My idea behind the card was that this is one that's played on Tuesday after the games are played. So you get to wait and see. So if you're going to lose, then you get to see all the other points and see if it's a card that you can play and you can use.
How many times are you going to use this card?
I was thinking just a one-time use because it's like an automatic win.
Yeah, it is.
Because once you use it, you're going to get the automatic win and you're going to get to steal a player.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay. Let me add in.
I like it because it ain't causing the other team to lose.
Right. It is. It's causing your opponent to lose,
but it does cost you as far as season points.
Well, it costs the tag team partner that, yes. That's true. Yeah, so it is hurting them there.
So do they get an option to decline you stealing their points?
No, I'm not even going to let them use the Ghostbuster because it's a tag team. They have to.
I'm just saying, if you're over here stealing 60 points from me, that might affect me going into the playoffs.
Right. Tuesday by noon after games are played. Team giving up points have no say-so. Even Ghostbuster can't stop it unless it is your opponent playing Ghostbuster. Okay. Did that cover that?
Yeah, it does. All I know is I'm going to be tracking that week because if I come back at the end of the season and see that I didn't make the fantasy because of those points, I'm reaching out to say, hey, you're going to owe me $20 if you win.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect of it. That's nice. Hey, Duarte's in the house. Happy New Year, buddy. Thank you. Thanks for joining in. Awesome. All right, so guys, probably in the next couple of weeks, actually probably 2 or 3 more weeks, we'll have another episode and we'll go over some more of these monster cards. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 50, 16, 17. We have 18 more to go. So that's going to be 2 more episodes, I'm sure, because one of them is pretty extensive. It's a pretty long card. So, but it'll be fun. But yeah, Rich, I appreciate you joining in. Thanks for coming on. I appreciate your insight. You have some good. You're pretty good at being deceitful. Let's say that.
Well, I'm pretty good at being counteractive to what you're trying to throw at me too. I'm thinking for everybody here. Come on now.
That's all that years of management.
Hey, you got to. The way I always say it is, you treat everybody same by treating them each individually different.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks again for joining us, guys. We've had over 20 live viewers this entire time, so I can't believe you're still sticking it out. If you are, it's probably because you're a Frankenstank lover. If you want in on this crazy league and you're catching on to this for the first time, reach out to me. Again, on Blue Sky, it's at Toyless Titles. Over on X for a short period of time, I think I'm going to be deleting my X accounts for both Toyless Titles and my personal one within the next month or 2. But that's for now, at least, it's at JustinFF_ and at Toyless Titles over on X. Or email the show at Toyless Titles, it's toylesstitles@gmail.com. You can email us that way as well. But we appreciate you guys tuning in and give us some feedback. Let us know. Let us hear the feedback, and you can hit us up in the Discord. If you guys are watching this as Frankenstank players, then you're in the Discord. Send any ideas for any new monsters. I have enough. I have plenty to get us through this next season, but I'm always willing to take on more because that's part of what makes Frank as fun as it is. So for Rich, I'm Justin. We appreciate your time, y'all. Have a great night.